Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Michigan City Sanitation Board meeting. I'd like to call to order the meeting. First, I'd like to hand the floor over to Mr. Cuss.
I just thought it would be good for me to introduce our new city engineer, Mr. Jeffrey Wright, who's here to my left, and automatically on our board by virtue of his city engineer title. So,
Awesome.
all of you
Welcome. Awesome. Roll call. Mr. Harris is the only commissioner here. We have in our presence Mr. Smith.
Not here. You said Mr. Harris was here.
I'm sorry. Mr. Harris is the only one not here. Mr. Smith is present. Mr. Ettinger and Commissioner Wright. And myself. All right. I'd like to...
I don't know about vice president, but...
Could I get a motion to... No, we're going to start the elections of the officers.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for President Gary Mitchell to continue on as president.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to make Mr. Smith the vice president.
Second.
Can I get all in favor?
Aye.
And then I'd like to make a motion that Mr. Ettinger is secretary.
Could we get a second? I second that. All in favor?
And I'll accept.
Too late. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. All right. I'd like to get approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
The December 18th, 2019 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Public comments. Is there anyone here that would like to have public comments? If there be no public comments, I'd like to open up quotes and bids proposals.
We don't have any this time, Gary.
Okay.
I just leave it on there so when we do, we can fill it in.
Okay. Our financial report, Mr. Kissel.
All right. I'll start by reading the cash balances. The operating fund had $813,312.17. The improvement fund had $842,895.03. Vehicle replacement had $119,995.58, and the equipment replacement fund had $670,380.51, for a total in that bank account of $2,446,583.29. The Indian Springs and Whippoorwill project had no balance. We made the payments to the SRF. The SRF debt reserve had a balance of $497,231.74, and the bond and interest had $209,629.88, for a total at BNY Mellon of $706,861.62. Stormwater had $373,748. The refuse fund had $1,287,069.65. Special revenue had $11,355.10. The levy excess had $8,522.14, and the rainy day fund had $81,307.78, for a total in that bank account of $1,762,002.67. Carwick remediation had $826,637.55, for a total cash balance of $5,742,085.13. As you can see, the operating, we're a lot better than last year. One of the reasons I didn't, we budgeted to transfer some money into the improvement fund, but until we kind of got the cash sorted out, made sure we were where we were. We didn't transfer anything to that fund. And that's really about it. The difference to last month in the stormwater refuse, that was the fall tax settlement we got in December. So.
Is that, I noticed that stormwater didn't go up, and that should also have gotten part of that settlement. Are you going to spread it out?
Well, it didn't go up because what happens is stormwater transfers the money to collections for the workers. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's why
so
I
you
didn't
just
really.
hit it right away.
Yeah, so I hit it right away in December. So that balance will, and then we do it again in June when we get the next tax settlement. So that's what happened there. And we also have our lease payments coming up, one in February and one either at the end of February or March 1st. And on one of those, it'll be the final lease. Yeah, we got 2 crossroad leases left. One, that'll be the final payment. The other one, we got 2 payments to go. And that'll be all the lease payments. And with this payment, that energy savings loan that we have, it'll be, we're halfway paid off. So we've made 5 of the 10 payments. So any questions about anything else on cash? Yeah, and then on the budget performance report, what you have in your packets, this is the full year budget performance reports for the operating fund, the refuse fund, and the stormwater fund. And as you can see, if you go to the last page, on each of them, you can see that our expenses are better than budget. The operating, like I said, the big difference there is the fact we didn't transfer it to the improvement fund. This is just the operating fund. So, but all the budgets, you know, the expense line is better on all of them than what we had budgeted. So it was pretty good. You know, it helped with some of the reimbursements we got, especially on Village Road and some of the others. So, and if you have any questions, just shoot me an email about this, or if you have any now.
Just a quick question. On the 2020 proposed budget, have we gotten anything back on that?
The refuse and stormwater were approved.
Okay.
And then the operating you approved.
Correct.
I left the total expenses at the next meeting. I had to adjust certain line items, but the total hasn't changed. You know, because I went through and reconciled all these accounts, and while I was doing that, I saw some things that needed to change in the budget itself for 2020, so I'll come back and give you, here's what it was, here's what it is now, and you'll see it's just in and outs between line items.
And that'll be next month?
Yes, I'll have it for you next month. And
Thank
we
you.
also
Thank you,
added,
everybody.
yeah, and we also have decided to add some people. So, yeah, I kind of had to alter some of the departments. The total hasn't really changed. I kept the total the same, but I had to move it between the 6 departments we have. But, yep.
Keep up the good work, man.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I only got 2 more things for you real quick. The first thing, the IT department has been renting what's called a ditch witch plow, and it actually puts in the fiber optic. It drags it like underneath the ground, and we've been leasing this thing for $2,454. What Ditch Witch through their
A year?
no, a month.
Yeah.
A month.
It's not cheap.
It's not, yeah. And so Rentals Plus, which is really part of Ditch Witch, they've come to us and said, hey, you know, the lease payments you've made, will give you 90% of the lease payment towards the purchase of this equipment. The equipment originally was $35,000, so they've given us a credit of $15,000, which leaves a payoff of $19,880. So just keeping it easy, that's like 8 months of lease payments. We're going to need this thing for the life of the project.
Yeah.
So we'll have this thing paid off if we buy it instead of lease it.
Was it a brand new one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was, and it's
I remember when we got it for the fiber optic to put all around the city. So
Yeah.
it's really important.
yeah, and I've been working with Andy on this, so I would just like to ask for your approval to go ahead and purchase this equipment.
So what budget item is it going to come out of?
I need to look at the various budgets because I don't know if we can take it out of the improvement or equipment replacement fund
Okay.
because it's not really a replacement. I don't know. I have to read the rules, but I'd like to take it out of one of those funds.
Okay.
Or next month when I come back, with the revised, I could add it there.
But you have the the $2,000 a month budgeted.
Right.
And
I
so-
budgeted that in the other rental line, so we
you
got
just move that over.
right. I can transfer it to the capital outlay fund.
So we're not asking for an additional expenditure. We're just
No.
moving.
Right.
So I just want to clarify. We're
Yeah.
just moving it over.
Well, we're actually going to get a benefit of
Reduce it.
10,000.
You're going to reduce the expenditure by 10,000
10,000.
for 2020.
Yeah.
And
There'll be
we'll
zero going
Yeah.
forward.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So this project's going to go another 3 or 4 years.
Right.
So we're going to get use.
Well, and you
out of
also
it.
need it if there's a repair too. So you break a
Yeah.
line, you're going to need it too, right?
Right. Well, and it does two things. It actually digs a trench, and it actually, and it drags the wire too. So it's got two features. So I just looking at the numbers, I just think it makes a lot of sense just to go ahead and buy it.
Before we make a motion, I like to say we're only as good as our equipment, and I think it would be a good idea to get it.
Yeah, and Andy's really been pushing on this.
Yeah.
We've been working. I meant to come to you at the last meeting in Ditch, which at least they honored the agreement for another month. So we had until tonight to decide. So I just ask you.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Could we get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, and then one last thing. As part of this asset inventory and asset management plan project that we're doing, there's a part of our new software in New World called the fixed asset proportion, and I've been working with Tyler because we need to understand how that module works. So we need some training on how we populate the module in New World. And so they've given a quote, and basically this quote is 4 days of training for $5,000, and then to convert the current data into a format that they can import into New World, it's going to take about 7,000 of programming on their behalf. So the total quote they have given us is $12,120.
Will we have multiple people receiving the
Yes.
training?
Yes. Yeah, it'll be.
Has that been determined?
Yeah, it'll be controller's office, us, possibly the water department. I don't know yet on that. But
Will they be contributing to it
Yeah.
as well? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, but we're taking the lead on this, and then I'll work with the controller's office on how we split it up.
But you were asking the board to approve $1,120, and that's for the total amount for the training.
Training and conversion.
And then if you get some reimbursement somehow from some other department, you'll come back to the board and let us know. But we
Yeah.
definitely need this training so that we can
To
start implementing
populate
this
it.
part of the program. So I would ask the board if they could please to approve this, and then if we can get some help with the finances, then we will, and if not, then at least we'll be doing it the right way.
So wait a second. But this is for all city employees, right? The training?
Well, this is not all. It's really only the accountants that are going to
Okay.
be doing the fixed asset portion. Keeping
Right.
track of the assets, depreciating the assets. Now, we are different than the city in that we actually have our assets on the balance sheet and depreciate them, whereas the city just maintains a list of their assets. They don't put them on the balance sheet.
Okay.
But we do. So that's why we're kind of taking the lead on this. Now, the State Board of Accounts, just as an aside, they are looking at possibly having everybody do what we do with the fixed assets, like put them on the balance sheet. Now, they haven't gone there yet, but it came up at last year's audit because they asked for a list of our assets, and our list hadn't really been properly updated for a while.
The State Board of Accounts and Indiana law, relatively recent, last year, require the city, and in this case the district and all the agencies, to have a asset management plan.
Okay.
Of course, you can't manage assets you don't know you have.
Yeah.
So the first step in that, as we talked before, is find out what all your assets are. And now, under the State Board of Accounts, they even want to know what's called the walkaway assets, cell phones, even though they don't meet the capitalization $5,000 cost requirement for your capitalization policy. They want you to inventory those, and we have to
We're
do
going
that
to keep
anyway.
an inventory of
For your
those.
cyber,
Okay.
the asset management plan has to include a cybersecurity plan. And that's, as you know, we hired you guys contracted with Matrix to do
Right.
the risk assessment and all of that. So this is just a continuation and finalization of the ability to get all of the assets into our accounting program,
Right.
so we can track them better instead of people doing it on paper.
Yeah, we got stuff all over the
Without this
place.
training, we're not going to be able to use the financial software programs.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
really need this, so.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No
Thanks for the
opposed.
explanation.
Thanks.
Yeah,
And any other questions?
no, great job.
Okay, thanks.
Financial report with Kistler and Cuss, Charlie Keene update.
Good afternoon, Board. Charlie Keene, General Insurance Services.
All righty.
Here today to give you a brief update on the workers' compensation renewal for the self-funded program that the sanitary district participates with the city of Michigan City. So in your packet, or I believe Scott has provided copies for you, just a quick historical background. The anniversary date of the program is January 15th. The city sanitary district entered into the self-funded program with the city April 1st of 2010. And the program is administered by four elements. The first being the excess coverage provided by Safety National. The second is a buffer layer, which is also a form of excess to buffer between the excess and the city's retention. Is provided by Great American E&S Insurance. And the third-party administrator, who we contract with to adjust the claims based on Indiana statute, is provided by Comp 1. And the fourth element is the city sanitary district's claim fund, the fund that we pay workers' compensation claims out of. Marketing efforts. So we did go out to the marketplace to compare our self-funded program to the guaranteed cost world or the traditional insurance marketplace. Guaranteed options came back at premiums of excess of $180,000. That's just the sanitary district's portion. That does not include the city of Michigan City. So when you combine that with the...
Did you say 180 or 108?
180. Yeah, 180,000. So when you combine your fixed costs with the claims fund, we're still significantly ahead by roughly 40,000. So savings by going to this program is clear. Now, these programs are set up to be multi-year programs. You know, you have a big claim, right? But that gets spread out over a long period of time. So it's kind of a little bit like comparing apples and oranges. But over the long term of the program, we've saved the district significant money, as well as the city of Michigan City, by self-funding the program. So essentially, you are the insurance company in these types of programs. Summary of changes: there's no changes in coverage limits, and we're talking about the excess coverage. The only change this year is we're switching out the third-party administrator from York Sedgwick to Comp 1. York got bought out by Sedgwick, and their service kind of tanked with it. So this will be a positive change. Cost for that change out is neutral. There's no, actually it's slightly less. So from a premium summary standpoint, the renewal premium for the excess coverage provided by Safety National, $26,284.86. The buffer layer insurance provided by Great American, $8,499.54, and the TPA fee, $8,904, and those are the sanitary district costs. And they're roughly 79. That's 21% of the total costs that the city and the sanitary district have combined.
So the total is $43,688.40?
Correct.
For the premium, what about for the other cost?
That's the excess, the buffer layer, and the TPA fee.
Right.
And then the loss fund.
Correct.
Yeah. So the loss fund, we are recommending a contribution of $84,000 per year to go into the city's loss fund.
Okay.
And that would be the sanitary district portion.
And that's basically what we're paying, because we pay roughly $1,700 an employee, so it comes out to $127,000, which is the same number.
So essentially, you're budgeting the proper amount to pay for the fixed costs as well as the loss fund. The next page, I put a 5-year.
Charlie?
Yes.
So I'm looking at the 2018, 2019, and then 2019, 2020. It looks like the total is less. Am I reading that correctly? So, again, there's been a savings on this program.
No, the actual fixed costs are higher.
Okay.
They're $3,900 higher than expiring.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And at the end of the day, the fixed costs are, not really that significant in the whole
Right.
scheme of things.
Right.
But we had to fund the excess insurance companies have actuaries, and so there have been some severity claims over the past 12 years that have caused that.
Okay.
I
That
got
excess.
a question. How much money did you save us this year in total?
Well, if you have no claims, I saved you a lot of money. It's hard to. This is very hard to compare to the traditional marketplace because you don't know what claims you're going to have. You have expected claims. The key is not having claims, and then you save a lot of money. So you're in control of that loss fund, that $84,000. If you don't have any claims, you get to keep that $84,000. That's your money because you're the insurance company.
One way or another, we're going to pay $127,000. We're not going to save as the district anymore.
Yeah. So
we pay the city $127,000. We're going to pay that no matter what.
roughly.
Because they have to budget
that's
theirs
correct.
too. So we're going to pay $127,000.
Correct, but you get to build that loss fund, so that loss fund
Right.
will get greater. Even though you're funding the $84,000 in the loss fund. Hopefully, if you don't have to use it and pay claims, it's your money. So
You might have a lesser contribution in future years
Right.
if you build up a big enough balance.
eventually, what you'd like to do is increase your retention on these excess policies, which will bring down the fixed cost premium over time if you build enough cash in the loss fund. So that's the ultimate goal.
So are you asking for the board to approve the $43,000 or?
121.
Correct. I went to the Board of Works meeting yesterday and got the approval from the city of Michigan City. So as traditionally, I've come here and presented it to the Sanitary District Board. So technically, it's been approved by the Board of Works.
Do you need our board to approve?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like.
And I also see the proposed budget from a month ago that we have over the $84,000 budgeted, $87,000 here in our proposed budget. Was that approved?
Yeah.
That was, okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll make that motion to,
I had it on the workers' comp line.
Okay.
Right. That's for the $1,700 per employee roughly.
okay,
This is for the premium.
very good.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other
Can
questions?
we get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Just one quick question, Charlie. Do we have property and casualty coming up?
We do. I'll be here next month and
Okay.
present that.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
And that's
Is that-
you were going to give us a couple months on that, weren't you? Or last year when we talked about it?
Talk about it later. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if a couple months. You asked me to go out to the market.
Go out to the marketplace.
Yeah.
I
So-
checked the notes, that's
Yeah,
what.
that's what we did.
So
Yeah.
so I'll be presenting all those options
Great.
to you.
Okay. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Awesome. Safety, Dan McCoy.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. McCoy.
Hey, Dan.
How you doing?
Good.
Okay. I'll start out with the monthly report. You have two reports with you today. The first one is the monthly report, and then the annual report. On the monthly report, I think it's important to note that we've gone 3 months now injury-free. The last injury occurred on October 3rd. That was to a loader that was lifting some heavy materials into the refuse truck. And some of the noteworthy activities on a monthly report, just a couple things I'd like to mention. We did hold our first aid CPR training that was provided by Michigan City Fire Department. And we trained 15 refuse employees and 1 collections department employee. So that brings us to a total of 31 within the Water Reclamation Department that has American Heart Association first aid training, and then 15 refuse employees. So that's a great number of people that have that training. And then secondly, completed the 2020 Health and Safety Action Plan, very detailed action plan that was part of the contract that was approved last month. Looking at the annual report, I went into a little bit of detail on that, talking about our injury experience. 2019 had some mixed results. It's not exactly what we really want to see. In 2020, we have some pretty aggressive activities to try and turn that around. But some of the things we'll look at with the refuse department, again, mixed performance. The good thing is that we had 0 days away from work cases, and that's the first time since 2009, so the first time in 10 years. We do have, however, an increase of recordable injuries. Last year, not 2018, we had 4. Last year, we had 8. Taking a look at those, what were some of the reasons for that? Well, walking and working surfaces, 3 injuries, manual material handling, lifting, 4, and then truck mechanical failure, 1. So those are the types of injuries that occurred last year. So our focus has been in 2020 thus far. We're focusing on the morning meetings and including safety in those, talking about situational awareness, watch where you step, look, some of these injuries that occurred on walking working surfaces along their route, and they step in a hole or something like that. So it's footwear, looking at, where you're walking, safety awareness, situational awareness, those types of things. And then also we're going to emphasize a good bit about driving safety for our drivers, vehicle inspections, again, for the drivers, and then manual material handling, really focus on that, continue to focus on that with loaders. So that's what we're going to take a look at and try and work quite hard on that in 2020 in the refuse department. Then when we take a look at water reclamation, again, it's mixed. We had 2 days away from work cases, but only 12 days away from work. No days away is what we want to have, but but 12 is, it's a number that we don't like to see, but it is what it is on that. And what that was, it was lifting, it was manual material handling again. So we'll focus on that obviously in 2020. Some of the other injuries, bee stings, had 2 bee stings, 1 poison ivy, 1 improper tool use, and 1 vehicle accident. And that was the vehicle accident that occurred to a collections employee, and it was a 3-car accident. Unfortunately, our vehicle was the 3rd car in that accident chain when the first car ran a traffic signal and caused a chain reaction accident. So those are the types of incidents that occurred to us that resulted in injury last year. So when we take a look at that, I mentioned focusing on material handling, again, driving safety, vehicle equipment inspections, looking at that. And then also we're going to take and continue to take a look at process safety management, our risk management programs. So in 2021, in June of 2021, we have to resubmit our risk management plan to the EPA. So we want to make sure that we perform our audit that's due this year and get that completed, work on any areas that we need to improve on so that we're in good shape when we get to, say, April of 2020 to submit our risk management plan to EPA. So that's a very important focus that we'll have this year. And then some of the 2019 noteworthy activities. We've done an awful lot in the way of heavy equipment operator certification and recertifications, new employee orientations. We conducted 9 of those. Basically, the orientations focus on, well, there are a number of things that are common that we have to be concerned about on hazard recognition throughout the whole district. But then there are certain areas that need to be focused on within each department. What goes on in the refuse department is somewhat different than what goes on with wastewater treatment operators as far as what the hazards they have to be aware of and everything. So we kind of fine-tune the new employee orientation so that we get the folks started out on the right foot. And that seems to be helping out a good bit. Snowplow safety training, you know about that. 100% participation on portable fire extinguisher training. American Heart Association first aid training. We improved our inspection processes on cranes and hoist that we have within the Water Reclamation Department. Refuse truck DOT pre and post inspections, and then working with central maintenance to make sure that we have a good process on performing the inspections. When we note something that's not proper, then making sure we get the information over to the city garage promptly, that it gets into the queue properly so that it can get back out on the street safe and ready to go. So that's what we're looking at there. And then the garage shed demolition HSE procedure, and then of course the PSM procedures and everything. So that's kind of an overview of, you know, what we did last year, where we're kind of going in 2020. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Do you guys have any questions on it?
So hopefully we
Nice
can.
annual report.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, thank you very much.
Bigger than, yeah.
So is there any training that can be done, Dan? Because I noticed that there's back issues, either lifting something or shoveling or something. I mean, is there anything that we can help with the guys to
I
say,
think
okay,
so.
do some seminar of how to lift things appropriately?
I believe so. Is Charlie still here?
I am.
Yes, he is. I'm going to mention something about GIS, and I haven't discussed this at all with Mr. Cuss or with any of the other managers. So we're in a very, very early stages of looking at this. But GIS offers a risk management center type of software platform, if you will. And within that, it has e-learning opportunities. There's a huge section in there on driving safety. There's a huge section on lifting and material handling. So I think what we want to do is to take a look and see if that's something that might benefit us. And of course, that's a decision we'll make that will be made, and taking a look at the cost of that and what it might save, and take a look at that and see if it's something that we can use.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I wasn't going to bring it up in this meeting until I was ready to had
Well, no, I
really
just-
looked
What
in
was
it.
offered, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
but,
just looking at the different.
since you
injuries, and you look at them, and that's really
Yeah.
the bulk of them.
That's
So, I
it.
mean, that's where
That's true.
you know. I mean, if we can make
Yeah.
sure that they're lifting properly or whatever, it may help.
You bet.
I would say on the average over the 5-year period, it's 520 total. If you just look at the average, that's 104, 105,000 per year. Training might help.
True. Mhm.
Are any of these? I mean, I don't see anywhere that's like recorded if it's an avoidable incident. Was it avoidable?
Well, how do you mean avoidable? Could have, well, all incidents are avoidable, preventable.
So they're all avoidable.
Sure, they're all preventable. That's
capture
a
the whole
concept.
105,000.
That's a concept, a basic concept of industrial safety or safety in general. That essentially all incidents are preventable. Just a very small fraction might be an act of God or something like that, but almost all are preventable in some way. So what we need to do is to look, well, what is it that caused that, the root causes?
Do
And then
do
we
that?
work on those.
Is that, do we
Yes,
do that?
we
study
sure
each
do.
event?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep.
Sorry, I didn't know.
No, that's great. That's a great question.
Yeah, that's great.
We get a monthly safety report that
Right.
really
Yeah.
lays out a lot of things that he's doing and working on as far as safety, and really keeps us up to the board up to date. And he's always available as well.
Okay.
And they have safety meetings as well, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I saw some of the numbers you were looking at.
Yeah.
Lifting injuries are hurting people. It's just not acceptable.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. You
Yeah.
bet.
So if we can prevent that, I mean, I think we should look at that.
Oh,
I
definitely.
mean, we're not going to prevent everyone, but I mean, maybe there's.
Well, we
we should try to.
go with the vision that we can prevent all of them.
Yeah.
And we try our very best to reach that. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Good job. Good job. Project updates, Weaver Consultant and engineers.
I don't see anybody here from Weaver Consulting, so I'll go through this. We have this report on the Carwick Nature Park project summary. Carwick dump site remediation is very near substantial completion. The earthwork, final grading, seeding, and bank stabilization are complete, as reported last month. Since last month, NIPSCO has energized the lift station power supply, and our maintenance chief of maintenance, Kevin Van Sickle, has inspected and accepted the new lift station, which was placed into operation on January 8th, 2020. Remaining work to be completed will be demobilizing the temporary site security fence and planting all the trees and shrubs, per the habitat restoration plan. And then there's some pictures there. The first picture is the actual pump station. And don't forget, that's collecting all the leachate that for 50 years or more was going right into Trail Creek. Now it's all being captured via a long pipe along the whole bank of the Trail Creek, and capturing that all and treating that, sending that back to the wastewater treatment plant for treatment now. The second one is the Viral Guard bank reinforcement upstream of the footbridge. This was called shore socks. It's kind of like Steve likes to use the term burrito. It's like it lays on the ground, and then you fill it in with chips and mulch and stuff, and goes in there. And then this shows the bank stabilization is complete with the grass starting to grow. And the next picture is upland seeding and mulching are complete. And then this is the new driveway that we put in, a driveway for us to maintain the lift station, and also the driveway. We're working on an recreational amenities plan with some grant money that we have, and the driveway might end up turning into maybe being a parking lot down the road for parking. So I believe the Shore Socks is the first time this has ever been used in northern Indiana, and it seems to really look really good and really stabilizes it. Again, I've started to say that you fill it up with mulch and you wrap it over the top, so then you have the grass seed in there, so it's like a complete inside of a blanket, and then the grass and seed and stuff grows through that blanket. And of course, that's planted with native grasses and stuff like that. So that's the update there. Any questions about that right now?
No, it looks great. I drove by
Hopefully, we're going to
Yeah,
get the trees and shrubs planted, in the spring, March, April area. We've got a couple invoices that I'd like to get approval to pay. They are on the docket, but we'd like to go through these major invoices for these projects. The first one is Weaver Consulting invoice of invoice number 45666 for a total amount of $7,194. That's been approved and reviewed by staff, and I'd ask for the board to approve that.
So moved.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No pose.
And then the second invoice is number 69056, a total amount of $1,631.52 for mitigation monitoring. And that's also been reviewed. And of course, I always like to point out, we have our verification of services form that we like to attach to this, as really it's a good way to keep track of, that you've actually received the services that you're paying for. That's been reviewed, and I'd ask the board to approve that.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
That's all we had there.
Is V3 engineers here?
Yeah, Ted's here.
All right. Cheney Run.
Ted, what we did for the project update is we've got this, if you don't mind, I'll go through this first.
Sure.
We've got this project update memo. Basically, it's a project completion report that Mr. Stanford prepared most of it, and I did a little review and added a little bit here and there. And it's talks about how we completed the project in accordance with the grant. We have a LAIR grant that's paying for $90,000 worth of the design work for this, and up to 80% of the cost, up to $90,000. So this just talks about what was done. As you remember, we had 4 different engineering firms apply for the proposal: SHE, Smith Group, Hay and Associates, and V3. And all the proposals were pretty good, but we decided for reasons to go with V3. We felt like they were going to be able to be the most creative with the project, and as it's turned out, they certainly were, because the bids came in way less than were originally set forth in the feasibility study. We kicked the project off with the design on January 11th. Also, the permits from the Army Corps of Engineers, the IDNR for construction and the floodway permit for the Cheney Run and Trail Creek, and then the IDEM 401 water quality certification permit. We're good. We've also been working close with Delta Institute, and the project was put out for bids. We received 2 bids, one from HRP Construction in South Bend and the other from Woodruff and Sons in Michigan City. The bids were reviewed. HRP had a total of, they were the low bidder on both. They had a total for $711,000 for the wetland part, $18,000 for alternative sediment trap weir, and for a total of $729,000. And V3 confirmed the calculations and total costs, and they were the low bidder. Also within 2% of the engineer's estimate. HRP provided a contract for the sediment, for the pretreatment stormwater pretreatment unit. That was an add-on where we started the project. That came in at $934,000, and we don't really think we're going to be able to move forward with that right now. Services rendered to date for the design not to exceed $161,224. And the next steps are we're going to work closely with GAF to make sure that we can get that land subdivided for them to donate it to us, which I'll have a little more information on that. And then we move forward with the construction. So that's the summary report there. And then I had a memo that I wrote about the how we'd like to fund the project, and that's going to be mostly through grant funding. I have this part one. I'm on this memo now. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Okay. I need to go through this a little bit with you if you don't mind. Part one, wetland construction total cost is going to be about $949,500. The wetland portion is $711,000. Alternative A1 is $18,000. Alternative A3 is $29,000. A1 was for the sediment trap weir, which we're going to need now because the item is going to require that. Because we're not going to do the pretreatment unit, and A3 was that for the in-creek, the habitat?
Yes, that's the thing.
Like J-hook? Yeah. Okay, and then a couple of things that weren't in that bid is a barrier wall, barrier fence. GAF, they're going to donate the property to us, but they want to have a 10-foot high fence along the whole boundary of the property, and we're estimating that at about $100,000. And then they also want a row of trees, which some of it's going to be shrubs. We're estimating that at $50,000. And engineering and inspection, we already have a proposal on that for $65,500. So the total cost of the project for doing the construction for the wetland is approximately $973,500. The stormwater separator, if we were to construct that, is another $949,500. We would get a $25,000 discount if we did both of them together, with the total cost of the barrier walls being $1.9 million. Grant funding, we have $570,000 of grant funding from Sustain Our Great Lakes. We have a Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant for $293,945 with no match required. The first grant required a 50% match, and we have another LAIR grant for the construction for $100,000 that no match required. Total amount of grant funding equals $963,945, but we would need to match that, Sustain Our Great Lakes. I always say Save Our Great Lakes. Sustain Our Great Lakes with $570,000 cash match. So I have a discussion here, which I'm not going to read all of it. The long and short of it is the pretreatment unit is just too expensive for us to do right now. We do have another grant on the horizon that we're going to apply for. For the sake of discussion, I'll call it the EPA trash grant. It's to keep trash out of the Great Lakes and rivers and harbors. We're going to apply for $500,000. I understand they're only going to be giving 3 of these grants in the whole United States, so I doubt we'll get it, but you never know, we'll apply for it. This is a pretty high priority project that people are very excited about, especially at Region 5, this whole Cheney Run thing. So many people are talking about how awesome it is, so you never know, maybe we might be able to get it. So ultimately, if we cut the project down and the LAIR grant and the GLRI, and we only use 50% of the Solgo grant, we'll have to have a cash match of $289,778 cash match that we'll have to come up with. There are several ways we can achieve the necessary funding for the cash match, which are described below. However, if no other source of the cash match can be achieved, the district can simply secure a loan for the cash necessary. If we need to borrow the entire amount, that would be about $35,000 a year from our stormwater budget, which if we spread that over 10 years, which we can easily sustain with our stormwater budget. Other sources of funding, Redevelopment Commission, we've talked to them. We had earlier talked to them in 2019 in March about having $100,000 in 2019 and $100,000 in 2020 to put towards this project because it's in the Northeast TIF district. However, I understand now that those numbers are maybe not so accurate, but they are interested in helping us fund the cash match, and we need to go to them and see how much they're willing to provide on cash match. I actually think they may be in a position to provide us the entire amount, but we need to talk about that and how we would go about doing that, maybe a little bit over the long term. Another anticipated source potentially is the Carwick dump site remediation project. Since that came in a little bit less than the amount of money that we have from our insurance recovery, we might have some extra money there, but we've got to be a little careful there because we need to make sure we set aside money, because every year we have to maintain that facility for like 20 years because to make sure we're in compliance with items requirements. So we have to make sure we have enough money there. And then the third option would be to approach the city about taking some money from the Riverboat or the Boyd Gaming Fund. And I really don't think this is going to really be a viable option for us right now with the financial situation that's been discussed at several council meetings and so forth. So, and Mayor Perry has made it very clear that probably not going to have any extra money to be spreading around for this. So I think our options are probably going to be the redevelopment commission and also maybe taking a loan out. So with that being said, I think you may have already approved us to move forward with this project, but I would like to ask again for your approval to move forward with awarding this project to HRP so that they can start getting materials and supplies and stuff ordered with this pending funding allocation that I just discussed.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
about
sure.
Schedule.
Yeah, sure.
The permits we have require that construction inside the creek itself not occur between March 15th and November 15th. So it's not the end of the world, but if we can't get HRP under contract soon, they may miss this winter's window to get out there and get the creek crossing in, which means we wouldn't be able to get out there. Well, there's 1 month in June we could do it. June 15th to July 15th, we could put the crossing in. So it would delay the project 3 months if we can't get them under contract soon. That's all. I wanted to add that.
It would be the total amount of the contract. Jim Meyer was just asking me the total amount of the contract for HRP would be the $711,000 plus the $18,000 plus the $29,000. I added everything together on the with the estimated for the fence and stuff. So.
And then an additional 65 for the inspection stuff.
700 and yeah, 758,000 for the contract for HRP.
Even.
Yes, sir.
So that's what you're asking the board to approve?
88. Yeah, ask the board to approve us to go ahead and award that contract.
Okay.
Pending review of our attorney and staff and everything like we've done before with the contracts.
Okay, pending everything goes right. We'll make a motion on leaving that decision with Mike and.
Well, you award the contract to HRP for amount not to exceed $758,000, contingent upon myself and Mr. Cuss approving, and the engineer approving the contract. Okay. We always use the standard form contract that the district has used.
Okay.
A dozen times.
So we like to make a motion. Get a motion.
Quick question: How long are these bids good for?
I think 60 days.
60 days from bid opening?
I believe so.
Okay. 60 days.
Which we opened them in November, so
yeah,
we're already pushing 60 days.
I'd like to know more about the project before we approve it, but
no. Well, it's pending.
Would you like me right now to?
Would you like me to talk about? I mean,
yeah, I don't know if I can digest a $950,000 project in 2 minutes.
Probably not. Okay.
So, if you guys make the motion and approve it, I'm sure Mike and these guys would get me up. I just want to understand it before I throw $950,000 at something. That's all.
Okay. So move.
Yeah.
I am totally in favor of making sure that the entire board is up to date on everything.
Yeah.
That as we make a decision and have some sense of discussion if there are any issues with any board member, and knowing that you're not as up to date, is there a way that we could get him up to date?
No, I'm available anytime to meet. Well, not well. Anytime after Wednesday next week, I can meet to get you up to speed. I'm out of town.
Project up. I don't.
And these guys know everything about it. I mean, Michael's been involved longer than I have.
Yeah, we've had several public meetings and
No, I
got the old
It's been
displays
approved
and
once,
yeah.
Is it a critical project for us?
It's something we've been working on for 2 or 3 years. I think it's critical. Yeah.
Okay.
It was trying to keep Trail Creek clean and keep the water quality of the beaches of Michigan City clean and
Okay.
that's
Well, the
what
thing
we need.
about
And we've got all this grant money too. Don't forget, we've got
So you could do the
$963,000
approval
of grant money.
contingent on me talking with these fellows, and we're starting that motion
That's
contingent
right. On there.
So make me part of the
Critiques.
contingent.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense. So that 4 of us get together.
Yeah,
and
so
talk,
you,
All right,
you
so
can get
And he's the
Right,
city
Rob, that
engineer.
will make a
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, you're the city engineer, right?
Yeah,
Make
he's
a
a city
motion
engineer.
unless there are any issues that need to be talked up to be held back to our next board meeting with agreement of you getting up to speed on this project.
Yeah, I'll share any issues I find.
Okay, and those issues, if they do exist, then we'll put a hold on it, on this.
Yeah, we won't move forward with it until,
Right.
unless
I agree.
if there's issues,
I'll
we
make
won't
that
move
motion
forward.
then.
We'll bring it back to the next board
Very
meeting.
good.
And then I will
Awesome.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed?
Okay.
All right, Ted, you can go now.
You want to stick around for the pay requests?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We've got 2 pay requests. These kind of this represents the rest of what's remaining on the original contract. We're done with design. We have to submit a report to Lair. These are the final ones that Scott and everybody came up with. So the first is for $68.75, and the second is for $1,080.
I'll make a motion on the $68.75 invoice, invoice number 119327.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just
No
so the
opposed.
board knows, there are 2 more invoices that we're holding.
Oh, there are 2.
Did we get them in our
Until
packet?
we get the final report.
No, there's 2 more that'll be on next
Yeah,
month.
they'll be-
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And I'll make the motion for the Cheney Run parcel 1 for $1,080.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No opposed?
Yeah, we kind of skipped over the GAF property donation. We're still working with this agreement. They sent us an agreement on December 20th, and we had some edits that we sent back to them, but they didn't really make them, so we met with them yesterday and went over our concerns, and it seems like we're, it's the type of thing where it's just some minor language in the agreement, and they're like, oh, don't worry about it, but I'd rather have it written, so it's written correctly, and somebody's not going to come back later. But and that's the other thing, we really can't do any work out there until we get the property switched into our hands, so we may not meet that May 15th deadline anyway, but that's what we're shooting for.
The next project on the list is
Strebel Pond.
Strebel Pond. It says renovation. It could be renovation, restoration. The idea is to go out there and clean up all the invasive species of plants that have colonized, mostly all the Phragmites, which is an invasive species. It's not as friendly as some native species. So we were asked by the city to go out and come up with a plan, or by the district to go out and come up with a plan on how to best eradicate that. The plan is finished. There's a couple parts to it. One is just, there's 3 parts. One's the general, this is what we recommend you guys need to do. The second one is kind of if you were to do it yourself, these are the kind of things you need to be aware of. And the third part is written literally in the form of it's a sample request for quote, basically, that you could put out to qualified contractors. They could come back with, some quotes or some bids, however you want to manage that process. So it's ready to go, and we've reviewed it with Michael and staff, and we'll probably the next step we're probably gonna go ahead and just put it out to quote and see what qualified contractors come back with. We have a general idea what it should cost, but we want to get some of the folks that might do the work to tell us what they think it would cost. So we'll probably have those numbers back by next board meeting, and we'll be able to go over that with you.
Okay, awesome.
All sound good?
Yep.
Yes.
Any questions for me? All right.
No, sir.
That's
You guys have a pleasant weekend.
You too now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John Doyle and Associates.
Good afternoon, everyone.
All right. Good afternoon.
On the Strebel Arm Ditch project, this is relocation of sanitary district force main and also two water lines, one on either side of Highway 20. This job is NDOT is going to replace the culvert underneath 20, and so we have to get our facilities basically out of the way. I believe this project was approved by the board in June or July of last year. Last year. We now have all of the permits and so forth, and what we need now is a contract signed with the Woodruff and Sons, and basically the notice of award, and then we can proceed with a permit to go ahead with the work, which probably will start about mid-February.
We've reviewed this contract, myself and Mr. Meyer and Mr. Stanford, and we
I would point out it is not our standard contract, but apparently this is what the water department uses. Obviously, it's a lot more brief. This is a split cost between the water department and the sanitary district?
It's approximately 1/3 and 2/3. The sanitary district paying 1/3, the water department paying 2/3.
Okay, yeah, there was an agreement previously.
But this total amount at 289 is the total amount.
Yeah.
290,000 is the total amount for a project, and we're going to pay about 1/3 of that.
Right.
So about 100,000.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I'd ask the board to approve this contract so we can get this water and sewer line moved, and they can fix the bridge. NDOT can fix the bridge.
Can we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Yeah, the distribution at this point between the two entities, water department 205,000, sanitary district roughly 85,000.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, John.
That's all I have.
All right. Haas and Associates.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
First up is the Southgate Neighborhood Stormwater Improvement Project on Village Road and Crestwood area. That project is shut down for winter. D&M has completed all the pipe work underneath the streets. The bulk of the work left is to restore the streets. That will take place in the spring after the asphalt plants open. And then also there's storm sewers to put in rear yard easements behind houses that front Ohio Street. Again, that work will take place after the hard winter breaks. Before any construction is started, we'll call for a meeting with Sanitary District and D&M and go over the plan to reconvene construction. You should have a couple pay applications for that project in front of you. One from D&M.
Are these the pictures to those at 5?
Yeah, those are. So you've got a progress report with photos of some of the work. D&M is responsible for maintaining the gravel trenches in the asphalt streets over the winter. We drive through there regularly to take a look and see how rough the gravel patched areas are, and if they're bad enough, then notify D&M.
Very good. I'll make a motion that we pay invoice number 201-8206-CN-02 to Haas & Associates for $21,978.81.
Can we get a second motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Thank you. And then we have pay request for D&M Construction, which we reviewed and recommend payment in the amount of $228,782.10.
We reviewed it also and recommend payment.
Okay. Alan.
I'll make the motion to approve invoice number C196236 to D&M Excavating for $228,782.10.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
The board should have received a copy of Mr. Kistner's letter to the Redevelopment Commission requesting reimbursement for this amount, which is pursuant to our agreement with the Redevelopment Commission in regards to this project.
Both of those last two invoices, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next on the agenda,
Long Beach Sewer.
the Long Beach Lakeshore Drive Sewer Preliminary Engineering Report. We have received the financial analysis from Sender and Associates and have passed that on to this board as well as the Long Beach Town Council for review and comments. Once those are back, then we will be able to finalize the report. We've already forwarded several sections of the report in draft format for review. Once the financial portion is approved, we'll get that into the report, finalize the report, send it along to both entities, the SDMC and Town of Long Beach, for review and approval and comments and so forth. Once everybody's okay with the report, then we'll submit it to IDEM. IDEM will review it, and if they find it acceptable, then they'll give the sanitary district the approval to go forward with a public hearing on the report, and after that, then that'll wrap this project up as far as the preliminary engineering report goes.
And in your packet is the draft cost analysis for Long Beach. And Jeff, for your benefit, this is Long Beach wants to put sewers in and tie into City of Michigan City, and we have an agreement with them where we're going to pay for this upfront money, and then when they do the project, they're going to pay us back.
I see.
So you have some invoices then you need paid on that?
Yes, we have.
Hey, Tim, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
The effect of the erosion right now down on Long Beach, is that going to change this report in any? Is it going to, I mean, if Lakeshore is kind of compromised, if some of the homes go, I mean, what do you have to do then? Do you have to go back and do a new report, or what? I mean, I guess I just wanted to see if there's any issues with this report, with what's happening down there right now.
I think it would be good for us to add some information about what has happened and transpired in the past couple of weeks with the erosion. And I believe there are perhaps 5 additional houses maybe that have impaired septic systems as a result of that erosion. So I think that would be good information to include in the report, so that if they weren't already aware of it, the IDEM SRF reviewers are aware that there's those kind of problems also.
Okay.
Other than that, I imagine that will be a topic that would be discussed at length at the public hearing. I think people will be talking about that.
That's what I was thinking. It'd be good to have it in the report of something on it, because this is going to be part of the topic of discussion, correct?
Sure.
At that public hearing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll make sure to include something in there about the recent erosion and damage, that it's caused to several of those septic systems.
Okay. So we have this invoice in here for invoice number 2019251-08 for $2,981.25, and we've reviewed it and asked for your board's approval of it.
Yep. I'll make the motion to approve invoice number 201925-08.
Wait a second.
Total of $2,981.25.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Thank you. And then the last item under our topics on the agenda, the
North End study.
North End capacity study. And the update is that we have 95% of the manhole structures in the study area have been surveyed, and measurements and condition assessments made on measurements on the inside of the structure, pipe sizes, materials, things like that have all been collected for 95% of the structures.
I don't have that in the packet.
It's not in the package.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you're looking for an invoice?
update.
Yeah, we did not submit an invoice for this project this month. But approximately 90% of the field collected data has been digitized into the shapefile database. We've been communicating with Tony Basil here at the Sanitary District regarding some additional information and shapefiles that he has shared with us that we can use to continue on with updating areas that were surveyed previously in previous years by John A. Doyle and Associates, and we're going to be including that into this shapefile database. And that's really about it. So we're making progress. I don't know if the weather's going to allow for investigation of 4th Street. I'm not even sure that we actually need to do any of that additional investigation. I need to look at it a little closer, but I think we might have been able to make pretty good determination of how 4th Street works. But I need to add that caveat that I'm not 100% convinced of that yet. That's the report for the North End capacity study.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So before you get off that, when do you think we could get our final report done on that? Is it coming soon, or is it still
Draft of the final print.
draft, I should say.
Well, I think it was about we were estimating a 7-month period from authorization to proceed, which would take it to, I believe, April.
Okay, so April or May?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. That concludes my report, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Mr. Cuss, you do have the floor, sir.
Okay. The first thing in your packet is notification to the IDE&M to continue with our issuing our construction permits for sewers in Michigan City. And since we have the new city engineer, I sent a note down to the IDE&M and told them that it's still our intent to issue permits in accordance with Indiana Code 327 IAC 3, and listed Gary Mitchell as the board president and Mr. Jeffrey Wright as the PE. And how this works is that when a engineering firm puts together a sewer system plan that needs a construction permit for a sewer, Jeff will review it and I'll review it, and we'll review it in-house and we'll both approve it. And then we send down the note approvals and the permits and stuff. We send all that down to the state of Indiana to show them what we did, so that they have a record of it. If we were to do our own design work in-house, then we need to contract with a private engineering firm to do that secondary review of the work that we did. And then we still send the same information down to the state, but we have to have a sign off from a private engineer. So just putting that in there to let you know that we updated that. Okay. And Gary took the time out of his busy schedule, if you notice, to come in here and sign this. I appreciate that, Gary.
You're welcome.
The next thing in your packet is an agreement that we were going to cross the board for approval, but just to give you a little background again, we have this Volkswagen mitigation grant. As you guys probably remember, Volkswagen was falsifying all their data for their emission testing, and they were fined, I don't know, do you know how much it was, like $1 billion or something? A lot of money they were fined by the federal government. So Indiana has a pretty good share of that money to give out to use as they see fit, I guess. And they decided to come up with this Volkswagen mitigation plan. We applied for grant money for that, for low emission vehicles. That's what it's supposed to be, about air, cleaning up the air. And we received a grant for $171,000. I think it was 25% of the cost of some 3 dump trucks. That's what we put the grant in for. Our refuse department is in sore need of dump trucks. They're really old, and they're really almost not even maintainable any longer. So we put the grant in. They agreed to pay 25% up to $171,000 for the grant, and this is the agreement to purchase the 3 of them. But we need to put this on the back burner right now. We've got to figure out how we're going to come up with the rest of the match on that. We may need to look at borrowing the money again on that for reasons I discussed earlier. So I just wanted to show you this. And
excuse me, is there any salvage value of those dump trucks that are being replaced?
Yeah, probably some salvage value. I don't know if I can't remember the bid, if there was a trade-in on those or not. I don't remember, but
Usually there are.
So anyways, just a little bit of an update there. Come back to you that next board meeting, I'm sure, we have a little more information. The next thing is the energy savings report. First of all, as you may or may not be aware, NIPSCO has increased the rates of your electric use. And our rate for, I've got 2 things in here, our new rate on the top and then our old rate below that. Our demand, we get paid on our demand for the kilowatts that we use, and we also get paid on we also get charged on our usage. Sorry if I said paid. We get charged on our demand and we get charged on our usage. Our demand charges went up 4.3%. For the first 2,000 kilowatts, we used to pay $5,260. Now we're paying $5,484. And then for each kilowatt hour that we have, that went up 14.9%. So from 0.38, maybe say $39 a kilowatt hour, up to $0.04 per kilowatt hour. So I wanted you to see that, first of all, and then your energy savings report is in your packet. And if you turn to the second page, highlighted in red for January of 2020, if you use the new rate, we saved about $5,161 over the average of the 2 years prior, before we did the energy saving installation. So with the increase in the NIPSCO billing, we're going to be paying more than we were paying before, but we're also going to be saving more too, because we're using less energy. So that shows you about a $5,000, $5,100 energy savings for the month of January 2020. And also, if you're keeping score of this stuff at home, we updated the calculated rate, the 826 rate. We updated those 3 columns on the far right-hand side for all of the data for the last, from 2016 each month up till now. That's all been updated to reflect the new rate and then the new savings that we would see each time. So, and of course, from our previous discussions about this too, our energy fluctuates mainly with, the more water, the more rain, the more we have to pump and so forth. So, is there any questions about the energy savings? We're
Thanks
still,
for the work on this.
Yeah, thanks,
It's a
Mike.
lot of
Ryan-
information I
yeah.
know to get to.
Yeah, Ryan, our new engineer's been helping out a lot with that, and again, he sent it to me in draft, and then I talked to him about making a few edits in here and there with the 826 rate. We put all that in there, so it's really good. So I like doing it, and he likes doing it, so it's good information. The next thing on the agenda underneath energy savings is the annual year one report. We're still going back and forth with ESG on their report. We sent them another note just last week, and we haven't received any response yet from them. And we're looking at drafting another, maybe more formal letter to kind of clarify our position overall on that. And as I said before, while we're seeing savings, I don't really see us seeing the type of savings that they said we were going to see. So we need to flush that out just a little bit more. And hopefully I'll have some more information for you about all that at the next board meeting, okay?
Okay.
The next things are just things that just talk about a little bit. The Bagley cleaners, there's been another proposal about what to do long-term with the groundwater contamination. It seems like they want to do a lot of monitoring and so forth. There was some talk at one time about pumping it into the sanitary sewers for treatment through the wastewater treatment plant too. So no real major update there, but they know they did come to a settlement with Bagley Cleaners, that's the city, and of course, as you know, we were deeply involved in helping with all that. Ohio Street Reconstruction Project, this will probably be the last time you'll have to see this on the agenda. It seems like it's been on there forever. The project was accepted as final at the January 6, 2020 Board of Works meeting. So the project is redevelopment meeting. Sorry, BOW I had on the redevelopment meeting. Thanks, John. So that project is complete now, and then the South Shore oil release. We've talked about that several times at our board meetings. As you know, we sent the South Shore Freight, which is not the same as the South Shore line, that the commuter line is a different company. We sent them a notice of violation and required them to do several different things, training. I think they have trained their staff already on spills, how to report spills and contain spills, do some groundwater monitoring and keep us in the loop, update us on that. And one of the other things was to pay a $2,500 fine, which they did pay. We received that. Any questions on that at all? No. The digester electrical project is moving along. It's another one that's probably been on there longer than Ohio Street, so hopefully, maybe might be the last time at the next board meeting. In talking with the electricians, Marcus Electric, they really felt like they could get everything wrapped up by the end of this month. So that project is a project that, as you guys know, is very important. When the plant was redesigned back in the 80s, some safety concerns were not evaluated properly and were never installed properly. And Mr. McCoy and staff identified them, and it's something that we really needed to do. The likelihood of something bad happening is probably small, knock on wood, but we did hear that explosion that happened in Chicago last year, and the Goshen, which is just on the other side of South Bend. If you guys know where Goshen is, they had a digester room and stuff blow up a few years ago too. So it can happen, and this will allow us to make sure we have the proper ventilation, proper type of electrical equipment, and also gas monitoring and stuff to give us alarms and stuff to notify us if we were to get a buildup of methane gas in the building. So that project should be complete, hopefully by the end of this month. White Ditch, any questions on the digest electrical? White Ditch, this is somewhat, we met with the IDEM on December 27th. I think I told you we were going to do that. Marty Maupin, who's gives the approval for the wetlands work, came up here and met with us on site and asked us. We were going to be going from Friar Road to a set of railroad tracks, the CSX Railroad, and there's a certain spot along there going towards the south where the creek is really more of a meandering wetland, and he's really anxious about us getting in there and doing any work. And he said we could do it, but it would be difficult and hard to approve. So he's asked us to stop at a certain point which will make the project smaller and less expensive, and he will approve it. So we've got, we need to send him a note. I think I saw a draft today from Ed Stefanik, who was the wetlands delineator person from Weaver Consulting, who was aiding us a little bit on this. And I think I saw a note today where we're going to send that off to Mr. Maupin and get his approval. And I think he said he'd issue the permit to us pretty shortly after that. It's called a regional general permit. So hopefully we could put that. We did. I think we asked you for approval to send out requests for quotes. This was so long ago we did this, and if
That was in July.
Yeah.
yeah, if we sent it out or if we didn't send it out, either way, we'll either resend it out, or if we did send it out, we'll look at the quotes, but we might have to resend it out again because they might not be any good. Any more questions on that? Sewer maintenance and letter policy, I'm leaving it on because we really haven't made any progress on that, but I'm leaving it on so we don't forget. Your blue swag, Stormwater Advisory Group report is in your packet. We had another meeting today, which was a really good meeting, and we talked about many of these projects, or many of these, he's calling them flooding. I'm on page 4 of the report. Well, let me back up a minute. Let me just start in the beginning. Just go over this just a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but page 3 talks about your stormwater associated with construction projects that we have going on in Michigan City right now. He's using the term MS4 program update, but it's really just about one portion of the MS4 program, which is the stormwater associated with construction. There's 10 sites in there right now, and there's a little bit of update about each one of those. And then also the part 2 on page 4 talks about flooding projects. I don't know if flooding's really the right word, probably more like ponding, street ponding, some ponding in people's yards. And there's quite a list of those projects. It goes all the way to page 8, which there's 18 of them on the list right now. And I really have to commend the engineers at the sanitary district. They've done a really great job of working on these things. They've even come up, and also Mr. Basil, our GIS coordinator, they've come up with an interactive map that we show it on the map, show where each one of the projects are, list everything out, and come up with potential solutions to the projects. Item 2 on here on page 4, item 2 is 113 Wintergreen. We needed to install a dry well. That was the object, was to install a dry well to help with the drainage. And this is something that normally we would send out for quotes to a contractor to do the work. And we've been getting quotes anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 to do this kind of work. And we decided to try to do this one in-house, and we did it in-house for materials and a dry well and all the stone and everything included, $2,200. So that's quite a nice savings right there. So that was one that we have done. There's a couple other ones. I think the one at number 5, it's by the Fire Department Administration Building. We were going to install a dry well there. I know John Doyle helped us with some design work on all that. He also talked to us about putting together a design for a storm sewer all the way down Broadway Street. We put that on hold right now. We may install that dry well on our own there too. It's going to be a little more difficult because there's more utilities in the way and so forth. But if you have some time to read through some of these projects, they're interesting, and we're really making some good headway on this stuff. And our stormwater advisory group meeting, which is usually at 1:30 on the day before our board meetings, the day of our board meetings, was well attended again today. We've got some residents and local engineers that come to the meeting and help advise the sanitary district on how to move forward. And then, of course, the rest of the blue swag is all about the grant funding that we have, all our different grant funding projects with these tables and everything. And I'm not going to go through all those right now, unless you guys want me to. Okay, any other questions about that blue swag report?
No.
Okay. Next thing is the U.S. Highway 2035 sanitary sewer relocation airport project. Mr. Meyer might need to help me a little bit on this one if I get it wrong, but Butler, Fairman, and Seifert has been hired by the airport authority to do some work for relocating the utilities because they want to put that overpass airway, and they thought they had everything squared away to get moving forward, but then they came to us a couple weeks ago and said, well, there may or may not be the funding for Michigan City right now. They seem to indicate that the funding would go through, but maybe not as quick as they thought it would go through. So they told us that maybe we'll just do one more invoice. If you remember, this is going to be something that we're going to get reimbursed by the FAA on. And they said, well, we'll do one more invoice now that you can pay now. And then they're going to kind of put the project on hold until they find out what the timeframes are for getting the money from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. So there's one more invoice here. It's on the docket, but it's also has our verification form that we reviewed it and the work and the services. So it's invoice 87408 from Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for $2,891.50. If you guys could approve that.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
Okay, and I got two more things that I didn't get on the agenda, but wanted to go over with you. Take one of those and pass it down there, Mr. Wright, please. I'd appreciate it. The first one is this annual biosolids report that we need to send to the EPA each year. It's due to the EPA by February 19th, and I've been working on it, and yesterday and today actually too, I was able to put some finishing touches on this report. I did not give you the entire report. I just gave you some of it. The entire report looks like this. If anybody wants to read the whole thing, Holt, I can send it to you with tables and graphs and everything else if you want to. But this is our land application of biosolids, which is it's actually you might seem odd, but it's actually an NPDES permit, it's not a stormwater, a permit that allows you to land to apply biosolids or wastewater to land. And this is your whole report. Just to go through this a little bit here, we applied 396 dry tons of solids this year. That's less than we normally have in this report. Usually we're up around 800. The reason that it's less is because, as you remember, the spring was very, very, very wet. And the farmers normally get their crops planted by the middle of May, and I think they were still planting some corn in the second week of June this year. So the crops did not come off the fields until later. And luckily for them, I don't know how much you guys follow this stuff. I'm not a farmer by any stretch of the imagination, but I look at this a little bit more now with the land application. And they were talking about if we even had a normal frost this year, that we were really going to be in trouble with our corn and our wheat. But as you guys remember, November was super, super cold, but October and September were really nice. So they lucked out really in that respect. I think the good Lord was looking out for us across this country because it was going to be rough. But anyways, that's the main reason we didn't apply so much. And we applied in the months of April and December this year. We did get some applied in December. We were in full compliance with everything. I'd just like to point out on page 5, we have the concentrations of the different metals that we have to test for. And I'd just like to point out how good our sludge is. For instance, for copper, we're allowed to be at 4,300 milligrams per kilogram. We're at 750. Selenium, we're allowed to have 100. We're at 8.9, so we're well below the limits. And then on the far right column, this is your cumulative loading that you're allowed to put on a field over the lifetime. So the field that we went on this year, which is a field the farmers used several times in the past, as you can see again, we're allowed 1,500 kilograms per hectare for, I'm going to use copper, for instance, and we're at 12. So as you can see, we're well below any limits there. Another one is nickel. We're allowed 420 kilograms per hectare, and we're at 0.427. So it shows you that we've got a pretty good sludge, a pretty good program. I think it's a tribute to our pre-treatment program and so forth also. And the next page is talks about, there's a couple other things we need to do. We need to digest the sludge in our digester long enough that it reduces the pathogens down, and we have to maintain 95 degrees for at least 15 days. In 2009, our average in our digester temperature was 98 degrees Fahrenheit, and we had a 24-day mean cell residence time. And then we also have to do vector reduction. That's you have to meet 38% minimum of your volatile solids reduction, and we had no problem with that. Overall, in 2019, we were at 49%. 38 is the minimum. And in April, we were at 54. In December, we were at 48 for those land application periods. So it's a lot of work doing this. It's actually something that I do enjoy. And also, you may remember that when I started here, Gary might remember, I think he's the only one on the board at the time, that when I started here, the sanitary district was paying a contractor $78,000 a year to do this land application work, and we're doing it all in-house now at no cost to us at all. And actually, the next part of it, our farmers are actually paying us a little bit for our sludge, so it's really a win-win for us, and another example of cost savings and how we're doing that stuff here at the sanitary district, trying to save money. The next thing I have for you is, if you take one of these and pass down, is an upgrade, what's that? You have one? Oh, as an update to our land application agreement with our farmers. The main reason that we need to upgrade this agreement is we've been working over the years with, remember we put out a request for quotes years ago, and we only had one farmer who gave us a quote. And that was the Lawrence Brothers Farms in Knox, Indiana, and they also have farms in LaPorte County too. Mr. Brad Lawrence, the two brothers there used to be three brothers. One of them, unfortunately, was killed at a younger age due to electrocution, and there were two of them that were running the farm now for the last 20 years. And Brad Lawrence ended up passing away last year. So Todd Lawrence has taken over the operation, has changed the name to Todd Lawrence Farms. So that's the main reason for the upgrade for the agreement. And then the other thing is, if you turn to item 6.1, they used to do a better job of hauling the sludge, but it was always a pain trying to coordinate it with them. And they were paying us $1 a dry ton. So if you approve this, we're looking at $4 a dry ton for the sludge if we haul it down to them, which works out way better for us. It's just a lot more efficient and scheduling and everything like that. So those are the two biggest changes. That's also identified in item 9 again. And Todd's already signed off on this, as you can see on the very last page. So if the board will approve it tonight for this agreement, and it's a 2-year agreement, it'll go through December 31st, 2021, and then we can extend it again for 2 more additional years after that at our discretion. I asked the board to grant approval for this updated agreement.
Could we get a motion for the updated agreement?
I'll make the motion to approve the updated agreement with Todd Lawrence Farms for biosolids pickup and land application agreement.
Can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed.
All right, thank you very much. And then after that, we have our a wide variety and slew of environment reports. As you know, the staff usually puts together a monthly report. The first one is the IT department, and then I also ask them to put together an annual report also. And so just for I'm gonna just try to read a few of these out, mostly maybe for the public's benefit, since we're on TV and maybe they might want to see that. The IT department, on the annual report, they had 2,556 service and support calls last year. Major projects were they installed fiber at Washington Park, at the golf course, installed cameras at Washington Park, installed fiber on Michigan Boulevard, hooked up central maintenance with fiber optic, and their 3 maintenance buildings. We've got this new the old Seneca property over here. They hooked that up with it also. They've helped us install the Tyler New World and done a lot of migration on that. Really helped out immensely throughout the city with that, and I think they're continuing to do that. In fact, I think Caleb Goodwin, who's taking the lead on most of that stuff. I think we're just going to move him down to City Hall, and he's going to be embedded down there. He's still going to be a district employee, but embedded down there, much like David Hutchins is embedded at the police department. And also, now that I mentioned that, David Hutchins, and I don't know exactly what it is. I should get this for the next meeting. He has passed some kind of college degree. I think it's a college degree in cybersecurity or something. He got his degree, so it's very impressive to have that on board here from Michigan City also. Okay. Huh? Oh, what did I use? Missed the last one? Oh, the NIST. They completed the NIST assessment agreement in the entire city. That's the evaluation.
That's the cybersecurity risk evaluation.
Mr. Stanford's annual summary report. It's quite long. He's helped out a lot with water reclamation, maintenance and collections, did personnel interviews. He's hosted IDEM response to complaint investigations, assisted IDEM with inspection of facility. He's maintained the pretreatment program, done a very nice job on that. And he's helped out with our laboratory. Again, as you know, we're the only laboratory in the state of Indiana that is approved by the A2LA accreditation to the ISO standard 17025, the only municipal lab in the state. He's helped coordinate most of that. And construction projects, it's a long laundry list of different projects that he's prepared requests for quotes for. As you can see, I don't know, Mr. Meyer would be so disappointed in him for not using letters or numbers, so I don't know how many it is without counting them, but it looks like it's probably 30 or so maybe, different RFQs and letters and stuff that he sent out last year. Pretty nice job there. He also reviewed this dump site gas report, did his annual pretreatment report for the IDEM. That's due here by April 15th. Has done a bunch of inspections, helped out with the Volkswagen grant and the Coastal grant, Diesel Wise grant, and of course the pretreatment program, as I mentioned. So that's his annual report. Arbor's annual report. I'm not going to talk about the monthlies. Arbor's annual report. We had 27 lateral tap permits he issued in 2019, and there's a table there that compares. Oddly enough, it's down from 44, 45, 46, 43 last year. I always thought that was somewhat of a good gauge of the economy, because if you noticed in 13 and 14 there were very few, and the economy picked up and we started getting more lateral taps. But I don't know why there wasn't so many last year. I hope that's not maybe somebody at one of the big wigs at those financial companies might be seeing this information, putting out their forecast for 2020 for the stock market. I don't know, but hopefully not. There was one sewer permit only in 2019. Also, again, that was down, as you can see, and hopefully we'll have more work for Mr. Wright to approve. He's done these inspections of the grease traps and the grease interceptors in 2019 at these 12 different locations. Whenever there's a new restaurant, we're requiring them to meet our policy, and when there's also some of the facilities that are existing, we're following up on inspections there. Actually, we got a facility, we did some work recently over by the Dunes Plaza area, if you know where that is. Arby's was over there. They never had any type of a grease interceptor. We asked them to install one, which they did a few years ago. We're still getting grease over there, and we think it maybe need to evaluate that a little more. I think Popeyes is over there now too or something. So I'm not sure if that's who's in Popeyes and Sonics are new. So we need to keep an eye on that. It was filling up our lift station. Engineering work that he's done, building site and drainage projects. He's got a list of different things there. Quite a long list of all the work he's done there. Detention basin letters, Pine Street, the new Honda dealership, to name a few. 118 Northbrook is another one. We installed the drywall there. And then inspections for constructions associated with stormwater. Again, this is something that the MS4, one of the aspects that the MS4 requires us to do. There were 13 sites checked for compliance and so forth, and He's done approximately 300 inspections of those facilities. Pollution prevention and good housekeeping inspections. That's another aspect of the MS4 program. You have to go around to every single one of the city departments and do inspections. Last year, he only did 2 because in previous years, he had gone around to those and helped them out, get them in compliance, making sure they didn't have any stormwater runoff issues and stuff. And then training. Of course, we have our annual conference, the Conference on the Environment, which we get credit for stormwater training. But this is something that we're going to have to re-engage all the staff in the city because IDEM wants everybody as, I don't know, Reggie Corthall doesn't do it anymore, but she used to always say everybody, including the mayor, has to be trained in stormwater MS4 training. So we'll see how that goes. The new person that took over for Reggie, we haven't been inspected for a while. So, and then attachment A is the list of the laterals. Attachment B is a list of the construction projects. Attachment C is the Rule 5 associated with construction more than 1 acre in size, and then attachment D is some training that Arbor's gone to. Johnny Gorsica's annual report. He's overseen stormwater construction projects at Northbrook. Worked with Haas on the South Gate. He's been out there on all these construction projects overall, and also a list of different things: Alkin Jackson, Wildwood, Popeyes, Village Road, Lakeshore Drive, Forest, California Avenue Lift Station, a long list of stuff there. Sanitary projects, so again, overseeing construction on the Fifth Avenue sewer, the Cool Spring in Tilden, sewer upgrades, 4th Street and so forth. You know, and I think Fifth Avenue was the one where we had the permit issued for. Special projects, again, Carwick Nature Park, as everybody likes to call it. Actually, it's Carwick Dump Site. And Johnny's been out there looking at all that stuff on site. Coordinated review and field checks of engineering work. Intercity engineering work that he's done. Singing Sands Trail, city resurfacing projects. He's been out there on all the city resurfacing projects, being the city's representative and so forth. Administrative work, training. He's attended 4 training sessions and then participated in some of this public outreach, conference on the environment and Ohio Street reconstruction and so forth. Mr. Byers just has a monthly report. As you can see, he's just putting down what he's doing every single day, and it's quite a long laundry list of the work that he's doing. He just started in September, so we didn't make him do an annual report this year. But next year we'll be expecting big things from his annual report. Mr. Miladovich has his December monthly report and also the annual report. The wastewater treatment plant had 98.3% removal of BOD. Again, our permit limit's 5, and we were at 2.2. Suspended solids, 99.2% removal. Limit is 6. We were at 1 for an average. Ammonia, 99.7% removal. The limit is 3.1 or 3.3 in the winter, and we were at an average of 0.02. And phosphorus, our concentration was 0.3. And we have to keep it below 1 milligram per liter at all times, and we also have to meet 75 or 80% removal depending on our influent. We had 88.7%. And E. coli bacteria, the limit is 235 colonies, and 10 was the maximum that we had. There were 9 backups he reports in here. Whole effluent toxicity testing. Twice a year we're required to take our effluent and test it for toxicity, and we passed both times 100%. So those are a couple things in his report. McCorvey's annual report. We processed, I just love this. I love this number, 2,902,480,000 gallons of wastewater we treated. Again, 2,902,480,000 gallons of wastewater, and annually we treated. So, and that's a pretty good number. He talks about his wasting average and the pumping average, and again the combined yearly totals. If you really are want to learn how to do wastewater treatment and look at some numbers, this is it. One of the other things Dave does is he's also coordinates our grease traps. People bring grease loads to us from when they suck out the grease traps, and Mr. Stanford and I, we came up with a design that Miladovich wants us to patent, but I don't know if we could really patent it. Basically, we come up with a design with some rocks and stuff that used to make some baffles to keep the grease from getting back into our plant. It's working out really, really well. The annual report for collections, Jim Michaels. We had 9 backups that we reported to the state. There were 7 that were in the basement. 1 lift station was a force main that was busted, and then there was some jetting that we had. We were cleaning a sewer. I don't know why we really had to report that, but we did. They had a total of 8,114 work orders, and they videoed 12.8 miles of our sewer system last year. Some of the highlights of that report. Maintenance report, annual report. There were 1,458 work orders. 201 of those were on lift stations. 593 were on vehicles and equipment. And the total work orders generated, oh, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Preventative maintenance was 1,458. And then requested work orders was 1,074. And it came to a total of 2,547 work orders. Installed a new butterfly valve on the number 10 valve, which was a big one. Fixed the number 1 primary tank drain. It was broken flight chains. It was a big project. And power outages, these guys are out there whenever there's a power failure, they're out there. One of the other things we did, NIPSCO had to come in and switch our switchgear out. As you know, we have 2 sources of power that come into our plant that's required by our permit. We either have to have that or backup generator, and the switchgears needed to be replaced. So we had to shut down all the electricity to the entire plant for a while, and they coordinated that. We put the 72-inch sewer, which is 2 main sewers, is one of the 2 flowed into our storage basin, and the 54-inch sewer, which comes in along Trail Creek. We just had to back that up into the sewer, and we kept an eye on it, and that was very successful. So that was another good project. The lab report, we don't have an annual report, but you could look at the number of tests that they do there. There's a lot of tests, they do every month. I don't know, there's not a total on here, but just looking at the numbers, it looks like about 1,800 to 2,000 tests a month that we do in our laboratory. And then our GIS coordinator's annual report. He's got sewer mapping, all the work that he's done on the sewer mapping, fiber mapping that he did, and planning and redevelopment, all the maps he did there. He's worked with refuse and collections on their routes. This is something that we actually talked briefly to Mayor Perry about. We might want to talk to a little bit more about that, as the routes that we take for the refuse and how to maybe streamline some of that, and also how we could work on the safety issues. I know you brought it up, Commissioner Smith, about the back issues, and that's one of the things we're looking at with the refuse department. He's helped out a lot with the Tyler development, the ticket management, and the miscellaneous projects he has listed there, a bunch of those, and then also at meetings. And then if you can see, here's his map, his list, all the maps that he's done this year for the city and for the sanitary district. It's quite a long list. It's, I don't know, it looks like it's like size 6 font, and it's 3.5 pages worth of different maps that the man's produced for the city through a GIS. So we really love having Tony here. He's a great asset to the sanitary district and certainly to the city of Michigan City. And then last but not least, the refuse report, the tonnage report for December. We had a total of 1,098.5 tons of loose and compact tonnage for the 4th quarter, and that seems to compare decently well with last year. Last year in December we had 988 tons, and then our total yearly total from 2018 and 2019 was 9,204 tons, and then in 2019 we had 10,668 tons. So basically an increase of several tons there on increase. So okay, that's refuse report, and that's about all I have, unless anybody else has any other questions for me about the annual reports or anything.
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments. As most of you know, I actually do read every single one of the annuals as well as the monthly reports, and I like to make a comment. Some numbers jumped out at me with regards to Mr. Stanford, and I was hoping he was here, but thank you, Michael. I'm sure you'll pass this. Oh, yes. Oh, there he is. Okay. You're not in your usual spot sitting. You threw us for a curve. Well, anyways, in reviewing your report, there were some things that really jumped out at me, and that you and Mr. Cuss together have worked on, and I wanted to mention those because it really is important that we understand everyone's value here. Okay, and you and Mr. Cuss, I just want to throw some numbers out here off of your report that you and he worked on our Volkswagen Environmental Trust Mitigation Program, which brought us up to $171,000. A Lake Michigan Coastal Program, $30,000. Accounts receivable representing revenues of over $83,000 were generated by fees of quarterly compliance monitoring, permit renewals, sewer usage, and excess strength surcharges. And putting those numbers together along with some other numbers on the backside here of permitted industries for quarterly compliance monitoring and calculated usage charges broke down to $29,000 and $42,000. I did a little math here, and what was really enlightening was that just in those few things that I mentioned that you and Mr. Cuss did, you both justified both of your salaries, okay, bringing accounts receivable to us, and paid for nearly all of our legal fees for the entire year. So I just wanted to throw that out there to make sure that that was brought up to the board and to everyone, that we as board members or commissioners are actually looking and appreciate your efforts. And when you bring something to numbers, the way that Mr. Cuss and Mr. Staniford often do, it really makes the picture very clean. And one last comment on the reports. If you ever want to get up to speed on what a lot of the department heads are doing, aside from what Mr. Cuss verbalizes to us, if you read these, I did it for probably my first 6 months. I really thought it would be necessary for me to do it. So when I first started 7 years ago, it got me up to speed so much quicker than a couple-hour board meeting. And meetings with Mr. Cuss that I had. And when I first got going, this is just for you, Mr. Wright. And on behalf of the entire board, we welcome you as well as Mr. Cuss did, and look forward to working with you. But getting a detailed, if you haven't had one yet, a detailed walk of the plant with Mr. Cuss and others is so unbelievably essential to understanding what it is that consistently goes on. I know you're an engineer, and I'm quite sure you have a ton of knowledge. But for those of us who came into this, myself 7 years ago, Gary 8-9 years ago, Mr. Smith just a couple years ago, and others on the board, it was extremely beneficial to spend some time sitting those stacks in certain areas that we spend time in to take a look and review them, because it really helps to get us up to date. So excellent report. Annual report, guys, very, very good, top to bottom. Michael ran across them very quickly, and I know he reviews them in their entirety, as I do. Well done, and thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Anything else on before we on that before we go to the next subject? No? Okay.
Mr. Myers?
Nothing to add to other than obviously I coordinated with all the folks on what was going on. I would point out one thing in reference to that Cheney Run project is that you've already spent over $230,000 of the grant money, plus unknown hundreds of thousands of the district's money. The point being, if you were to stop that project now, you'd have to reimburse the federal government the $200,000 of grant money. So that will be taken into consideration when we're having the discussions. I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that. But other than that, if anybody, I'll answer any questions if anybody has them.
In response to that, since Mr. Wright said, that he was concerned with throwing, $900,000 or to some number to that tune.
Sure.
The reasoning for probably several of the board members for not make an immediate motion was, and that I'm very grateful that you brought that up, because that was going to be essential in the information that hopefully you'll be obtaining when and if we do move forward with that project.
Just want to understand the project.
Absolutely.
And just to clarify,
And you should.
our share is $289,000.
No, I was responding to the 900,000
Yeah, I'm just
that he
saying
thought
that-
we were throwing at it.
Yeah, just saying that, just
Yeah.
for the sake of discussion for the public, that the project, 900,000, but our share would be like 289.
That's because of all the grants and
All the
everything
grants.
that you guys have gone out and received.
Yes.
So,
Excellent. Thank you.
Again, that's another thing that I want to commend you and your staff on also, is all of the grants that you guys get in on a yearly basis. I mean, really talked about some of the numbers and everything, but that doesn't include a lot of the grants that you guys bring in. And so, the staff and what you do, Michael, is very appreciative on, the grant writing and being able to obtain these grants.
Thank you.
Awesome job, Mike.
Thank you.
With that being said, we'd like to approve the revenues and the tax levy and claims.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Will there be any old business? Will there be any new business? Well, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn then.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed. Next meeting, regular meeting, February 26, 2020.